Hi, and welcome back to another episode of the History of Fan Anime. I'm your host, William Chow. In today's episode, it's a really first of a series of episodes. I'm going to try to attempt to do something that I've not done before, but I always had the idea of, and that is to do a review on some written work about anime. Okay, so people have been using anime to write essays, to write like theses and documents, and obviously homework assignments and that kind of stuff about anime. And so in this episode is going to be a start of a long chain of episodes, because obviously to fully do an analysis on a written work, it may require me several episodes to go over different points and that kind of stuff. But um, this is one of these sort of rare situations I get to do this. So before I begin and talk about this, I want to remind people to go down below, click like, and click subscribe. Again, any sort of comments and things that you would write down does help the YouTube algorithm. So at least hitting that like definitely does really help. So do please do that. Again, if you want to support me financially, I do have the super thanks button available, as well as the PayPal and Patreon links. Again, I've now added a little more content to the Patreon. So again, if people who are interested in my new ebook that's out, I've now added video versions of that available now. Again, so again, you can go to the Patreon, you can log in for free, and again, I've made it so that any of the paid accounts, has access to that first ebook for free, and the video version, you get a massive discount on it as well. So in case you would like to get a video version of the ebook, okay, as well as the audiobook as well. So do check that out. Link is below. Okay, so as I said, in this episode, I'm going to be going through and doing analysis on these written pieces of work. So people have obviously submitted either thesis documents or maybe their homework assignments, or that's for some of the writing, creative writing, or in this case it's whatever studies that they happen to be doing. Okay, and it uses a lot of references to anime, and part of the reason why I made this this channel is to inform people and to record and document history, of this age of anime that we've had in North America. And a lot of people who are doing this kind of research and that kind of stuff are having problems finding actual sources and actual information in regards to this era of anime. Okay, and and I've seen it from people from Crunchyroll and people from various different magazines and that kind of stuff are all interviewing different people and are trying to find information about the origins of how anime got this way. So in today's episode, I've come across a piece of writing. Okay, it does have this sort of a political sort of type of leaning towards it. Okay, and again, I don't want to talk politics and that kind of stuff, and most people don't really care, especially on this particular part of the channel, because my emphasis is on this again, documenting a time period in our history that that transpired and isn't well documented. Not very many people have written too many articles and that kind of stuff about it, and not too many people, especially from this particular era, have basically documented what exactly has gone on in this thing. And so what ends up happening is people tend to rely on things like Google and whatnot to write their essays and to get confirmation bias on their particular works. And this is particularly poor when Google does not show results for things that happened in the 1990s or the 1980s, right? They actually need some people, some interviews, and that kind of stuff to be made. And that's, primarily one of the main functions of my channel here, is to provide this documentation, to show you pictures, to tell you stories and accounts, show you merchandise and things that came from that, and how we came across it, getting this stuff, what this means, tie in things that happen in anime with things that are happening in real life. Okay, and that's what I'm trying to do with that. So again, this isn't a typical type of episode, and the way that I'm tackling this episode is maybe a little bit strange and very very long. Okay, but I assure you, even though we are touching a little bit on politics, do not pay attention to it too much because I won't delve too deeply into it. Okay, I'll touch on it, but I won't really get into why what particular things that happen on that, because there's a lot of factors and that kind of stuff, and that's not what this particular channel is really about to. But what I want to address, and which is the most important thing, is when people do research, okay, and they go and try to find information that supports their research, okay, and they use Google and that kind of stuff, this is confirmation bias. The fact that you're specifically looking for information and looking for essentially yes men, okay, people that will say yes to whatever you say, to basically confirm what you're writing. And of course, this is really poor scientific method, right? And since the topic is anime, I want to be this person that comes in and says, okay, using my own accounts, my own and whatever evidence and documentations and that kind of stuff, fan letters and newsletters, merchandise, art books, or whatever that happens to be, that I have available as a historic archive. I want to present it to you and tell my story in helping you understand and build this picture, the story. If you want to, kind of have a vision that's not just in front of you but around you, right? What are all the other factors that transcribe around you? So when I describe what the environment of, let's say, an anime convention in 1991, or some of the funny stories and conflicts and cosplay and that kind of stuff that happened at Comic-Con in '89. Okay, I want to not only tell you the story, I want to see if I can get you some pictures. I want to give you some context of why this is this particular thing happened. Was there any other things happening at the con that might have transpired? What about any sort of popular culture things that were also happening, or news stories that was happening at that particular time that has a significance of why this sort of thing occurred in anime? And this is what I want to present. Okay, this is the history part and the accounting part and of course the recording of and documentating of this kind of history, because as I said, um, we're all getting older, okay, and if we don't tell our story, if we don't get it, told in and documented, then we may become people like Carl Masick, Don Yee, Torrance Smith, all these people who are pivotal members of the anime community, but they're no longer around anymore, and they can't tell their story, and and all the things, whether or not good, bad, conflicts, their opinions on stuff, on how they handled things, and all the inside stories that we can't find on Google, and people didn't post on any sort of form, gets lost. Okay, that part of history is lost, and until someone comes through and documents it, maybe brings out some receipts and brings out some scripts or things of basically historical importance, okay, like these anime artifacts, if you will, okay, um, you know their story will never be fully, as I said, fully appreciated and fully understood, and then it'll be just basically left for interpretation. And one good example I just did a few episodes ago is the story of the most mysterious song on the internet. Okay, the mere fact that it is highly possible that most members of the band who wrote that song are no longer around. Even the producer that probably made that thing is probably, maybe, possibly no longer around. And with that, it may be very impossible to find out who exactly wrote that song and where it came from and that kind of stuff. And it may be just one of those untold, basically unsolved mysteries, right? And in this era, at this particular time, there should be no excuse for these untold mysteries or unsolved unresolved and unsolved anime things in history. Because as I said, we are still very, very young. As I said, we have entered a year of 40 years of anime in North America here. We should be able to have and document our own history and be able to do that, because as I said, we're not that old yet. Not that old yet, so let's get that. Okay, so anyway, I apologize for such a long opening. But yes, so here we're going to be in. I'm going to break this up into smaller episodes, and I'm going to kind of spread them out so that it's more digestible, and people can think about and do the different things rather than one big, huge 5-hour, 6-hour long video. Okay, so I'll break it up for you. All right. So without further delay, let's begin. Case study. So basically, now we're going to take a specific example here. Okay, so let's see what this is all about here. This is obviously the the evidence, or whatever you want to call it. Okay, so split controversy. While anyone could join rec.arts.anime, anime and manga historian Frederick Schlott, 2014, explains that new users had to follow net etiquette and read the FAQs to understand the debates and changes that take place between fans. Okay, which sort of makes sense, right? The problem is that with a lot of these groups and that kind of stuff, because it uses a very simple messaging system and messaging sort of format, each of the servers can have their own rules and that kind of stuff on how the news group gets which servers get which news groups, because certain news groups certain servers don't even subscribe to, especially the ones that have a lot of binaries, right? And again, no one regulates that, right? So basically anyone can have access to rec.arts.anime with any sort of email address. So the people who knew the way around the computers and knew the way on how to set up the Usenet, okay, and whatnot, they can still log in anonymously or using fake names and that kind of stuff, pseudonyms and that kind of stuff, and still get onto this board. So there's nothing stopping them, okay? And there's no requirement to sit here and read the net etiquette or the FAQs or that kind of stuff. They can skip over all that and again, that's just because of how the software works, right? There's no checks and bounds for that, and no verifications and that kind of stuff like we have now, where we have two-factor verification. The system will email you back, and you have to click the link and all that stuff. That stuff does not exist at this time. Indeed, despite the almost anarchist structure of the Usenet, okay, so even you admit, even right there, right, that there is this anarchist sort of structure. Okay, yet you decide to pick examples from the most toxic, most anarchist sort of site available, and use that as your evidence. Okay, that's literally, cognitive bias right there. We're not taking a distributive sample of the anime market. So we've ignored all the people that are out there without the internet. We've ignored all the people that are corresponding via the CFO, because again, before rec.arts.anime began in 1987, most people were part of this big organization called the CFO, and we did all our correspondence by mail and that kind of stuff. But nope, we're not even looking at any of the statistics and all that kind of stuff there. Yet we're gonna demise and postulate that this very fine sort of narrow-banded sort of market of people, okay, in the worst environment possible, has influenced, okay, has carried these links, okay, into the real world, okay, into all these other sort of clubs and CFO and by mail and that kind of stuff. Somehow that affects them somehow that it jumped out of the internet and into the real world, and this thing affected us all and shaped how anime became in America this small sort of thing. Okay, so again, this is more of this misplaced extrapolation. Anyway, so while it was not clearly identified ownership, okay, which is true because, like I said, once the architecture is set up, there, it doesn't mean that that person is the owner of this particular news group. They're not the police, as it were. They're not the moderator for that. It's just some guy who typed in some things and reconfigured the how the server and how the distribution feed works and that kind of stuff. Obviously, technical knowledge about how Usenet works on the back end. But once someone knew how to do that and get that kind of started, then everyone can have access to the board, right? While there was not clearly an identified ownership, it did not prevent some male, and I like how you highlight the word male fans from a sense of entitlement towards the group, leading to what is now known as the news group split controversy. Okay, so again, we've talked about ownership. Now we have some people, and some fans, okay, and you strictly said male, okay. In a news group that's let's say 95% going to be male, okay, the odds of someone stepping up and wanting to do some sort of community service or some sort of thing, because they're not doing it because they're getting paid. They're not doing it because this is their news group and they want it to run in a particular fashion. No, these are working people. Okay, JPL. They're students out of the University of Berkeley and that stuff. They got homework to do. They got computer projects they got to do. The Hewlett Packard. I mean, I'm sure this guy's got software updates he's got to work on, or putting laptops together, or whatever the hell he's doing. Right? These people got to do work. Okay, they don't have time to sit here and babysit this this message form, which again produces 150 messages probably every day. Okay, and I know that some people here are working in HR or whatever. You get a headache in the first thing in the morning or on Monday. You got like 50 emails you have to deal with, right? Imagine dealing with 150 every freaking day. Okay, so these people are doing it, for the love or for the community service, okay, that they're trying to do. Sure, might give them a little bit of sense of entitlement, but it's sort of the point of, hey, nobody else is doing it. Someone please step up and do something, okay? And sure, maybe the accumulation of things that whatever acts of service, okay, the importance to the community, okay, sure, you get a little bit of entitlement. And again, respect is something you earn. You're just not given it, okay. If a person gains a sense of entitlement, it isn't because, oh, well, I'm so and so, I should be entitled to my words or whatever. Maybe it's as I said, people kind of go, hey, he's done a lot for this group. He's helped a lot of newbies, or he's been kind of like a watchdog. He's been a moderator. That's where that sense of entitlement comes from. Even though there is no democratic system of saying, hey, people, we're all going to vote him as the moderator. Okay, sure, some sort of architecture like that, was tried to be put in place and that kind of stuff, and that's fine. But for the most part, there are no checks and balances in there. There's no facilities to do things like blocking messages and blocking users and all this kind of stuff. It was pretty much whatever goes, the wild, wild west, as it were. Okay. Okay, so right there. After the first reorganization in 1993, and as an interest in anime kept growing through the 90s, discussions about splitting rec.arts.anime into subgroups restarted. Yet the community had a hard time deciding how the split should proceed.
Okay, so just sort of rehash sort of the information in the history here. Yes, okay. So basically, in 1993, the news group rec.arts.anime started getting so many messages, because like all messages of all types, whether or not it's to buy and sell anime, fan art, fanfic, and musical lyrics, and FAQs, and manga discussions, and anime discussions, and doujinshi discussions, and all this other stuff. Everything's just mixed up into one, right? So that's why there's just a massive amount of messages, every single day. Literally, I mean, at this time, 150 messages a day easily. Okay, and you can see this. This could be a total pain in the butt. If you're, for example, you're right now, doing work emails, and you get 50 work emails on Monday. You already know that's a total headache and a pain in the ass. Can you imagine getting 150 and having to basically stay at work to go and process and go through this? No, people don't have time for that, right? Okay, it's called an RFD, and that which stands for a request for discussion. Okay, it's a special proposal. Okay, so it's a drafting up of a proposal, and it has to be submitted to the Internet Usenet group committee. Okay, which listen, it's not a internet. Oh, sorry, it's not a anime committee. It's an internet community, right? So they don't care whether or not it's anime or cars or automobiles or soap operas or whatever. They review it and see if it's suitable. It checklists all the various different things that they need the checklist for, whatever, and then if they approve it, they vote on it, and they approve it, and then the necessary changes by the software guys will propagate that into the system. Okay, that's basically the procedure and how it's done. So they decided to go ahead and do that. Okay. And so a whole bunch of subdivisions were sort of made. So they made ones for the marketplace, or they made one for like manga, and they made one for maybe like the buy and sell type of thing, right? So they made a couple of just to sort of if you want to talk about that kind of stuff, or you want to sell stuff, go onto that one. So it kind of helps sort the messages out a bit better. Again, this is a very archaic system. So it's getting quickly outdated. You also want to place in mind, okay, this happened in 1993, and here we're talking at 1995/96, where this sort of happens. The anime industry is going boom right now, because this is where 95 is where a lot of those new anime companies like Anime-Go, Pioneer, Viz, and all those guys are now jumping into the anime market and releasing anime, right? So now all of a sudden there's way more exposure. Sailor Moon and Dragon Ball are now on like YTV, and they have like the Toonami channel, right? So all of a sudden, boom, huge amounts of people getting exposed to anime, big influx of anime fans, right? We also have to take account the fact that anime conventions are now starting up. Sure, we had AnimeCon 91 and that kind of stuff, and the small ones like that. But finally, in 94, we had Anime America, which is the predecessor to Anime Expo, which the big famous one that we have now on the West Coast. That was the predecessor to that. So that's in 95, right? So all of a sudden we have got now big conventions that's big enough to be held in convention centers. Okay, and of course that's just not just in Anaheim, but we also have things going up in Seattle. We have things in Dallas, New York. Okay, all these major places now have huge anime conventions now, right? So we got lots of people joining up with the things. Okay, so that's the big huge flood of anime fans, and of course the other thing, why they had to do that in 1993 is because AOL started providing free, CD-ROMs and dial-up services for people to now have access to the internet. So now you're getting people, the regular everyday Joe Blow, non, you know, shall we say, non-educated, not essentially, but like non-university people, um, general working class, non, governmental, um, basically entities, right? Now coming on brand new, fresh onto this thing. So they're with all this new influx of people that is coming onto the internet. They had called this special event the Eternal September. So basically, 1993, beginning of basically around September when school starts. All right, all these internet providers started allowing people and offering people these free services or free trial, first month free or whatever, or 1,000 hours free or whatever, to get onto the internet, right? Using dial-up and that kind of stuff. AOL was just spamming all the computer magazines with free CD-ROMs, providing, first 1,000 hours of internet for free type of thing, right? So all we got like a flood of just non-normally internet people coming onto this thing to try the internet for free, okay? And of course, you total noobs, right? So a lot of people who just don't know etiquette and just don't even know what this internet is about. So they're coming in like total noobs, asking lots of questions, just basically bogging everything down, okay? In addition to this, right, you also got it in the fall of 93. So basically all the new students that come into the university and, they're getting onto the system, they're also compounding the problem. Because normally, a lot of new students and that kind of stuff come in. You got to kind of teach them the ropes and kind of, get them acclimated to this new environment of the internet. But now you got all these people with the free services and that kind of stuff. They're coming on along too. So this huge event called the Eternal September, which basically means that, this constant flood of new users coming onto the internet and coming into the news groups, and they just don't know what the hell's going on, right? So they're posting stupid messages. They're asking the same questions over and over and over again. They're trying to get acclimated, and they're just really, it was already bad enough that you're doing 150 messages every day, but now you're getting like a whole pile of messages being, so what is this about? Or, they ask a question that's already on the FAQ list, but they're asking it again because they didn't go and read the FAQ list. Or, people try to set up these sort of, etiquette, net etiquette, try to read this first and then go onto the board. But of course, people are total noobs. They don't know what to read. They don't know FAQs. So they're causing lots and lots of problems at this moment. So this just exasperates what's going to happen. And that's why in the next few years, that's why they, with all these new users and that kind of stuff, the news group had to undergo some split and had to undergo that. So again, you've made a mention that there's these people that are saying we're all the female users. There's this big sort of learning curve of getting in. This is also part of the reason this Eternal September effect came into play, where a whole bunch of these new users, all these new noobs and that kind of stuff. It was really, really, it was really tough for a person who is kind of like a noob, not very technical, meet up with this very, very highly technical, very, very sort of elitish type of group that's already on here. So not only would they kind of, shall I say, a little bit, not only hostile, but I just say, it just seems very, very hard to get in, just because it doesn't seem logical, doesn't seem very friendly. But then I think that's just in general because of all the people that have come in, male or female. It doesn't matter because they all come in kind of as noobs, trying to get used to this thing called the Usenet, right? And again, before 1995, so still no Windows. So these people are coming in using text readers and stuff. So again, it's not logical. The things doesn't seem to be obviously not sorted. You can't, search and news group things together. So it's really kind of a hard thing to grasp and a hard thing to use for a lot of new users at this time. A lot of people are commenting that all these floods of these newbies were causing a lot of first of all influx of new users and that kind of stuff, but all of these people are all newbies and they're asking the same questions, and they're basically like deer with deer eyes in the headlights sort of thing, right? They don't know what they're doing, and they're just basically taking up space, wasting up messages and causing lots of questions and things like that, right? So definitely the group needed to be split off. An FAQ section needed to be made and all this other stuff. So that's what happened in '93. But obviously, even in just the last, these last couple of years, the animation flow has been, bumped up so much. They have to do it again. They have to split up again. I also will make note that this platform was very daunting and wasn't very useful in terms of like some people looking for information and just being overwhelmed with 150 messages every day, this constant scrolling and scrolling of like random crap, okay, about anime and spam and like it's just useless messages that no one's got any information on, right? Plus 1996 is also the era and the release, with AOL, right? The release of messengers. Okay, so all of a sudden now, the newest change in technology is, instead of having to go onto the news groups here, or as a place to to get a message and relay messages and that kind of stuff back and forth, wait for emails and that kind of stuff. No, now all of a sudden we have things like ICQ coming in that came out in '96. We have AOL Messenger and MSN that came in 1998. Okay, ICQ, right? One of the most popular ones came out in the 2000s. Okay, all these guys came out, giving the ability for people to communicate with each other in real time. So this is really important, right? It's like, instead of having to type a message, about, hey, how's my fan subs doing, or hey, I'm interested in your Orange Road project or whatever, and then you have to wait, a day or two, a week before someone answers that email and sends it back. No, all of a sudden these messengers are like, hey, I can type in something, and then the guy answers me back right away. It's literally, it's literally like WeChat or Snapchat, except it's pure text. There's no pictures, no transferring of files or no emojis. Okay, it's just just text, just whatever you can type on the keyboard. That's all you get, right? But the neat thing is it's instantaneous. If the person's online and you want to talk to them, you can message him right away, and the person, if he's online or at his terminal, he can type back and respond to you right away. So all of a sudden, this is now taking a lot of people away. These chat rooms, okay, started appearing, and chat pop and that kind of stuff, started taking people away from the news groups, because this is now a way that you can now get sort of instant response. You can talk to the people who you exactly want to talk to. You can actually now block people. So if people are providing this negative networking, you can just say nope, boop them off, right? So this is the big shift between centralized media distribution, so one place to get that does all your media distribution, to what they refer to as community distribution. So the news groups and the information and the messaging and all that kind of stuff is based on the community, right? So we're not relying on some big internet, big eight hierarchy architecture to give our news and that stuff. We can now set up our own, okay? And this is in 1996, okay? Which is still that time when they're proposing and doing all these different things. So these are things that you have to take account to, and just by doing a Google search and just by reading a bunch of articles here, you don't have a good idea of what your surroundings are and what the situation is. Because basically now what you're doing is you're taking some text that basically confirms what you're trying to, kind of goes with the narrative that you want to say, but you don't see all the other things that are going on and what might also possibly be affecting this narrative that you're trying to steer, right?
Thank you for sticking along and basically staying with it for this long. I really appreciate that. I said again, this is not typical content that I like, that I like to to do, and but I think it's very interesting. not so much for the the topic or whatever of the particular essay here, okay? Because I don't that's probably that's politics and that kind of stuff is something I don't want to get into on this particular channel, but again, the importance of is correctly documenting events that happened in the past, especially in this very important golden era part of anime, and making and setting the record straight. You can make your own interpretations, and as when I remember when I took when I was on jury duty, okay, someone made a very prolific statement, okay, which really shaped the way how I think and interpret things. And this is what he said. You can choose to not believe, partially believe, total believe, none, some, or all of the evidence. Okay? So think about that. You can either, and this is it, there's, you've provided 6 different possibilities for one particular type of outcome. So if someone presents you a piece of information, you can choose to 0% believe none of it. Okay, like you have no confidence in it. You can have some belief or some particular confidence of some level, or you can be totally invested in believing this thing. Okay, but also you can also choose to believe none of the evidence. So, if multiple pieces or one piece of evidence that has different facets of it, you can choose to believe none of that. Maybe some parts of the evidence you deem credible and you will believe some parts of that. Or you trust the evidence, okay, so you fully believe that this evidence is 100% all parts of the evidence, so all the evidence as a whole, and you can choose to believe none of it, some of it, or all of it. And you can choose what level you believe it to, whether or not you just decide to 100% with or 0% confidence in any parts of that, partial confidence in 0 to all of it, or 100% confidence in none or all of it. Okay? Seems kind of confusing, but at the same time, it really resonated with me about how you would learn to interpret things and take the parts that you want to, that you feel credible, okay, and then you can analyze that using critical thinking to determine whether or not you wish to add this to your base of knowledge or disregard it as just total fluff. Or maybe something in the middle. Partially you agree with certain parts, you don't agree with certain parts, you feel fuzzy about certain parts, but you're confident that the evidence is actually true, but you're not really sure. Well, that's so it handles all the different gray zones, both positively on that. So again,
the goal here is to train your mind how to see the world differently, how to question what others say. I've come to realize that there are 3 categories of truth: personal truth, political truths, and the objective truths that shape our understanding of the universe. The interesting thing about an objective truth is that it's true no matter what. Imagine that.
That's just something one story I like to reflect on. But again, we have more episodes of this. This is a fairly long essay, but as I said, I'll split up the episodes and have more of that again. So thank you for staying on this long. But again, don't be turned off by the fact of the topic that this is about. Because I'm not going to try to cover the politics and that kind of stuff a little bit. I'll touch on it a little bit just because I have to. But for the most part, I want to stick to the history. All right. So thank you again, and I will see you in the next episode. So until then, until next time, I will see you again.